Hey everyone, Heather Persansky here, and I'm super excited to be here for day 2 of this beautiful gift to you. This is the Loving Sales Challenge. And so what I'm going to be talking to you about today is how to book more sales conversations, because here's the thing, right? If you don't have sales conversations on the books, how are you going to practice all of these lovely tips that I'm going to be sharing with you? And how are you going to be building up that skill? Because here's what I know for sure. Sales is a skill. Okay, sales is a skill, which means that you need to practice that skill in order to get better. You're not just going to simply read from a script and then it's going to sound kind of unnatural and then automatically people are going to close, right? You need to build and develop this skill of selling to people in a really loving and gentle and caring way so that they feel as if you are there fully to support them and that they are the biggest winners of the transaction. That's super important, because here's what I know is that they are the biggest winners of the transaction, because when my clients work with me, I know that I receive money from them when we're working together, but the work that we do together helps them to create more sales and create more clients for life. Right? So while we might work together for a year and I'm maybe receiving those payments for a year, they are taking those skills out and they are making more money for a lifetime. And so they are definitely the biggest winners of the transaction. And what they earn over a lifetime is far and above what I receive in return for my help and my support throughout that process. So I want you to know that about yourself and about your own product, because it is so true. I think that often, especially when we sell services that we are providing, because we're selling ourselves, it really comes into this deeper issue of self-worth and are we worth it? And then we really run into a block and a fear around selling. And sometimes when people come into selling themselves versus when they were selling a product, let's say, or somebody else's service, that was always a lot easier for them, because all of a sudden, if they reject that, they're just rejecting the product. Well, if they reject working with you, it feels like they're rejecting you, right? So we need to really come into this realization that we're just there to serve them. We're there because we want to make them the biggest winners of the transaction. And as long as you're firm, as long as you're true, as long as you're not scamming people, as long as you're very confident in the results that you can provide for people, then that is going to hold up. So how do we get these sales conversations? And actually, let's start with why do we need these sales conversations, right? Because nothing is sold outside of a conversation. So a conversation can come in many forms. So it can come through a long sales funnel. It can come from a bunch of short posts on social media, or the shortcut you can get on the phone. Now that sounds super scary for some people, right? But here's the thing about the phone is that is your shortest path to getting the sale. Okay. Now, you don't have to do it this way. Maybe you're like, oh my gosh, I have so many clients that I don't have time to get on the phone with people. Awesome. But for most of you, you probably don't have so many clients that you don't have the time to get on the phone. It's probably more like, I don't want to get on the phone. I don't like being on the phone. And so therefore, I'm going to project on other people that they also don't like being on the phone. But here's the thing. I can support you best if we're in a conversation together, right? Because I can read into not just your words, like I'd be able to do maybe through email or something like that, but I can also feel into your emotions and I can read your voice and your tone of voice. And even better, if we're on a video call, I can feel into, your facial expressions, your body language, and I can really step into to say, are we going in the right direction or are we not going in the right direction? So that's really, really important, because a big piece of the loving sales process is simply serving people. And if you cannot serve people, then if your sole goal is just to get money from them, then that is going to be really tough. And this is why when I'm working with people on building out long-form sales funnels or building out really great long sales pages, that there's a lot of value stacked into these elements because you still need to serve, you still need to give. That client always needs to be the biggest winner of the transaction. And here's the thing, right? Value isn't information, because here's the thing, information can just be Googled, right? So if you're just sort of like repeating all the stuff that you've read in books and they're just like, okay, whatever, like that isn't going to serve anyone. What's going to serve people is giving them something tangible that they can use, giving them some sort of system, giving them some sort of takeaway, giving them something that they can connect to emotionally, logically, and also physically. So in order to meet your income goals, we know that we need to start talking to people. This can mean just driving more traffic into your sales funnel or your sales page, or it can mean inviting as many people as you can into conversations. We want to connect with them on a very genuine level. We want to help and we want to serve them. So if there's an opportunity that you can help them further, you're just going to simply ask if you'd like to hear more about, if they'd like to hear more about what it looks like to work with you, right? So I'm going to give you here 5 steps from going from connection. So, hey, I just met you, right? And this is crazy. From connection all the way through the loving sales sequence that is going to close this person into a sale. So there are 5 steps. The first step is to create your inner circle list. So here's the thing. If you are not constantly connecting with people, then your lead flow is going to dry up. And the thing about that is that it doesn't dry up right away. So that's really funny, right? Because it doesn't dry up right away. It just sort of dries up maybe 2-3 months from now. So if you, let's say that you spoke at an event. I recently spoke at an event in Fort Lauderdale, and it was fantastic. And I met all these great new people who I love so much. The energy was so great. And if and I wanted to stay in touch with them. And so then I offered a freebie from stage so that they would connect with me, so that I would have their names, so that I could then connect back in with them, provide lots of more value to them. I ended up recording an extra video training for them, providing them lots of value on the back end, but also it was so that, we can friend each other on Facebook and we can keep in touch. So we want to create this inner circle list of about 100 people that you want to stay in touch with on a regular basis. Now, these are people who either, number 1, you think might be a good client for you. Number 2, they might know somebody who may be a good client for you. So this could be somebody like who would be a good referral source or something like that for you. Or they may have influence in your space. So that's number 3. So they may be a good client, they may know somebody who would be a good client, or they are some sort of influencer in your space. And they don't need to be a great big giant influencer, but they can just be somebody who has slightly more influence than you do. Cool. So once you have that inner circle list, you're going to make it a priority to just connect in with those people on a regular basis. Now, the point of this is not to sell. The point of this is to simply serve. Now, here's the thing about this. You can't just give them like, here, I just created this freebie for you, freebie for you, freebie for you, freebie for you, right? Like I got a few friends who do that and it's lovely and it's nice, but most of the time it's not something that serves me in particular. So you need to actually get to know these people. You need to actually dive into what is really great for them. And it could be something so small as, somebody on my inner circle list, they just did put out their first podcast. So I shared it and I was like, hey, awesome first podcast. I shared it with my tribe. And so it could be something that simple, or it could be that you read an article and you know that it would really support somebody. And so you shared it on with them. You said, hey, I know you're talking about this thing. Like here, I came across this. Maybe it might support you. I thought that you might like it. Okay. So you're just connecting in with people like you would your friends. Maybe even more so than you would with your friends. I'm not very good at keeping in touch with my friends all the time. I try to though. We do have regular nights that we see each other, but then we get busy and then, so we want to make sure that this is an activity that is scheduled into your calendar. This is an income generating activity, even though you are not pitching anything salesy to them. And you often are not even sharing your own resources. You are just loving on them and caring about them. Cool. So the step number 2 is to use the swinging spotlight technique. So what is the swinging spotlight technique? This is all about putting the attention back on them. Okay, so let's just say that you're having a conversation, and the way that most normal conversations go is that I maybe ask you a question and then you're going to ask me a question. Well, here's the thing about the swinging spotlight is that we want to keep the focus and the attention on them. So have you ever had a conversation with somebody and you step back afterwards and you were like, oh my gosh, that person was so nice and they were so supportive and I just love them so much. And then if you really step back and thought about why, it was probably because you got to talk mostly about you. And that person was listening. That person was asking you good questions. That person was supportive of you. And they really, it was kind of like this therapeutic experience. And so when we are using the swinging spotlight technique, we want to really just get to know that person. So we're just asking about them, asking about them, asking about them, asking about them, as if they are the most interesting person in the room, in the world, because they are. Right? We just want to learn more about them. We want to learn about their family. We want to learn about their business. We want to learn about their pets. We want to learn about their vacations. We want to learn about their dreams. We want to learn. Now, here is the thing, right? We don't want to use the same types of questions that we would use on a sales call. So we don't necessarily want to find out about like, what kind of results do you want to get? Where can I support you? Right? Like those are lame questions to ask. This is all about honestly just connecting in with this person and becoming really close knit with them. So how does that feel so far? Does it feel really good? I hope that it's feeling pretty good for you. But here is where this starts to get into booking sales conversations. So far we have created a list of people that we want to connect with and some sort of schedule to connect in with them on a regular basis. We have used the swinging spotlight technique to create really super interesting conversations where we are constantly swinging that spotlight back to the person in front of us. We are focusing that conversation back to that person in front of us. We're really getting to know them on a very deep level. And here's the thing about doing that is that eventually they're going to recognize that there has been a deep disproportion in how much they know about you versus how much you know about them, right? Like how much you know about them is going to be up here because we use the swinging spotlight. We really wanted to get, my hands look really big when I do this, like really close to the camera. And they're going to start to ask you about you. And eventually they're probably going to ask, what do you do? Tell me more about what do you do? So here's what I like to do when people ask, what do I do? One of the best ways that I've ever seen this positioned was with one of my mentors. His name's Rich Litvin. He has a really great book called The Prosperous Coach, and that book is fantastic. You can pick that up. But he uses the question, who do you know? So this is really great because when somebody asks you, what do you do? Then a lot of times we automatically go into sales mode. They're like, oh yeah, like this is my moment. I am going to nail this. And they're going to want to work with me for sure. And then their sales wall goes up because they're like, ugh. Wow, this person just tried to sell me and really I just wanted to get to know them because they've been trying to get to know me, and it becomes really awkward and then everything sort of falls apart from there. So the question, who do you know, is a really genuine question because definitely we want to know who do they know that might be a good fit for our work. So here's the way that sounds. So let's just say we're having a conversation and you ask me, well, what is it that you do? And I would say something like, well, actually, it's really funny that you asked because I'm looking for one more client for my upcoming Loving Sales program. And maybe you might know somebody who would be a good fit for it. So would you mind if I told you a little bit about it? Because maybe there's someone in your Rolodex that you might know. And of course, that person's going to say yes. Now, here's the thing. Notice that they asked me what I wanted to do, and I didn't just vomit back the answer to them. I went ahead and I asked their permission again for whether or not I could give them that description. Okay. And the reason that I do that is because I want them to feel really safe. Like, hey, this isn't a sales pitch. Like, hey, I just genuinely want to know, maybe there's a way that you can help me out by connecting me in with somebody that you know. Right? And so then you can go on and you can say, well, this is who this program is for. It's for people who want to sell high ticket items. It is for people who are really establishing themselves in business, who want to grow to the next level inside of their business, who want to achieve crazy high close rates. Who do you know that fits the bill? Who do you know that might benefit from that? Now, receiving this, when you say something like, who do you know that's a good fit, versus like, hey, are you interested in that? That feels just a whole lot nicer, right? And oftentimes what you'll find is that they will raise their hand and they will say, me, I'm a good fit. And the reason for that is because when you position that program, what you can do is you can say, well, it is for people who X, Y, and Z. And the X, Y, and Z might be characteristics that you know that that other person has. And they're going to automatically see themselves inside of your product or your offering. Okay? So that is who do you know? That's step number 3. So we've got the inner circle list, we've got the swinging spotlight technique, and we've got who do you know. Now, step number 4 is to book the appointment. So here's the thing. Oftentimes when they do raise their hand and they're like, me, I'm the person that I know who would be a good fit for this. That sounds awesome. I really want to hear more about it. How much does it cost? Right? That's what always happens. They're like, oh, but how much does it cost? Right? And so what I like to do then is I don't want to mix friendship and business. I want this thing that's happening over here with my inner circle. I want this to stay very sacred. I want this to stay where we are friends and we're not doing business inside of that circle. So I'm going to do just like you would when you go to visit the doctor, just like you would when you go to visit your hairstylist, right? You're going to book that appointment. Now, this is very, very crucial because it's going to allow you to step into a different feeling and into a different energy when you're inside of that conversation, right? So we need to book that appointment because if we do not have a separate appointment, then it's going to feel super weird and it's probably going to mess up the juju that you have going on over here. So when we're going to book that appointment, we're just going to say something like, well, you know, honestly, I don't know if this is something that you need. So what I usually do is I book an appointment. We can talk a little bit about your goals. We can talk a little bit about why this resonated with you. We can talk a little bit about some of your roadblocks, and we can do a little bit of work together. If at the end of the call you feel that you're still not complete and that you would like to explore further working together, we can talk a little bit about what that looks like. Are you open to that? That sounds pretty good, right? It sounds really loving. It's also going to take them out of this conversation. But then you can go back to being friends. You could be like, awesome. Well, that's great. We set up the appointment. Cool. What else is new? Right? That way we're not messing up what's over here. It's just sort of like a no big deal. We're going to mess up the appointment. We're going to do this appointment. Now, here's the other thing. If they say no to that appointment, then they probably weren't ready to work with you. And that's totally okay. Because sometimes we say like, oh, I might be a good fit for that. Tell me more about the price. But really, that's just sort of like this gut check reaction because we don't want to disappoint the person in front of us by saying, well, I don't know if I know anybody who would be a good fit. So this is our test to see if they really are a good prospect for us. Okay, so we booked the appointment, and then step number 5 is to use the loving sales sequence that I'm going to give you on day 7 to really turn that conversation into a sale and to convert it with crazy high close rates. So here's the thing, that loving sales sequence, I'm going to give you in that video on day 7. It's a 5-step sequence that you're going to use with your prospects once you're inside of that appointment to really drive that conversation in a very loving way that doesn't feel like you're selling to somebody, that doesn't feel like you're having to hard close them, that doesn't feel like you're having to handle objections or any of those things, because this conversation is going to guide you all the way through all of this. Cool. So I'm going to offer you one other tip before I wrap up this video. And that is, if in the midst of these conversations, you hear something that you can help with, you can simply offer your support to say, would you like some support with that? Okay. And then you can use the same type of script to get them into an appointment to say, well, you know, this is the type of work that I do. So I don't want to mix friendship and business. I don't want to sort of mess up this thing that we have. So usually what I do is I set up an appointment where we can, and you can kind of describe some of the work that you do and just ask them, would you be open to that? Okay. And then you're going to provide them value in that call. Now, the way that the loving sales sequence is set up is in that it's going to provide this value without giving away your work, but it's going to provide an awful lot of value to that person on the other end so that they're going to feel that they got a lot from the conversation so that they can then feel really good about it. And some people might be even complete. They might have everything they need just after walking through that sales sequence, but the vast majority of people will not, and they're going to want to work further with you. So I hope that you enjoyed day number 2. I am super excited that we are going through this journey and this process together. And there is one more thing that I would like to invite you to do. So I have created a client creation scorecard, and what this scorecard is going to do for you is it is going to not only give you a bit of a scorecard on where you're positioned right now, but it's also going to help you to figure out if one of the core areas of client creation is what's holding you back from creating the clients consistently that you want to create. And so for you to do that inside of the message that you got today, you did receive the link for that. You can click take the assessment, or you can simply go to bit.ly/gap quiz. All one word, all lowercase. That's important. The bit.lys are case sensitive. So it's bit.ly/gap quiz. Okay. And that is going to get you to the client creation scorecard. It's about 20 questions long. It shouldn't take you more than 5 to 10 minutes to complete. It's all just multiple choice. At the end, it's going to give you a result. And then if you do feel that you would like some more support with this, it will invite you into a conversation with me where we can talk a little bit more about your client creation goals. We can talk a little bit more about your gaps, and we can see if there is a way that we can fix that moving forward. So I'd like to invite you to do that scorecard, if for nothing else, only to get that scorecard result, which is going to help you to measure your progress with this, okay? So when you're measuring your progress, you can take your scorecard result from today, work on it for next month. You can come back. It's a completely free scorecard to do, and then you can come back, you can do it again, and you can measure your progress and your results. So I hope that you enjoy this video, this gift of the 7-day Loving Sales Challenge. I hope that you enjoy the gift of the scorecard, and we will see you in your messenger inbox tomorrow. Bye.